Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am joined by Rob Young, a face that I think everyone should recognize. But if you don't, is your official title? Just headmaster, boss, legend of party poker? What do we call you officially?
No, I think there's some confusion with that. Effectively, GVC are the company which own Party Poker, and I'm a partner with GVC, and I work because of my poker background. I'm helping out with Party Poker, so I don't have any kind of official title. I've made obviously I've made some investment in some of the live events, etc., that we've done around the world. But mainly I'm kind of in between Party Poker Live and Party Poker. I mean, I don't like the word boss or anything like that.
Well, I
No,
love
but it's
that
true.
word.
It's true. I find those words derogatory. I mean, it sounds a bit of a cliche, but in my casino in Nottingham, I'm happy to pick up toilet roll off the floor and do whatever it takes. And in all my companies, we actually don't operate with a hierarchy, so we don't have like director, manager, supervisor. We have quite a horizontal structure where people have deliverables rather than bosses. So kind of that's just how I'm used to working. So
I can
no,
get.
no boss, but I don't want to pretend that I don't make decisions, because that would be me hiding. So obviously there's some controversial decisions have been made. In Party Poker Live, we took away the multiple re-entries, which some of the professional players weren't happy about. And in Party Poker, obviously, we've made some very unpopular decisions with some of the professional players over the last week or so.
Well, I definitely want to talk about all of that stuff. And I think, in fact, this is something that the poker community as a whole has really been working towards, which is, I think, really listening to players instead of taking, maybe necessarily people who come from a more corporate background and having them try to run things, but taking people who understand poker, who understand the poker community, and having them make decisions about the space. So before we get too much into the decision from this week, can you talk to, for those who don't know, talk a little bit about your poker background and how you found yourself in this position?
I just got into poker by accident. I used to play blackjack. I was working in normal office business. I had a few different businesses around, and I had like a midlife crisis when I was 30, and decided that I never wanted to be kind of going to work on the tube in London and things like that anymore. So I decided to quit and go play blackjack around the world. But along that journey, I walked into a poker room. They were paying a $20 rebuy tournament. I sat down and played that, and then I started to play poker instead. And I ended up for 3 years just traveling around the circuit, going to John Duffy's EPTs, going to the Caribbean. That's why obviously we do the Caribbean now, because that's nostalgia. That was one of our first tournaments we went to. And myself and my best friend Nick Whiten, we travelled around together for a few years. And he's actually the managing director of Party Poker Live. So that's how I got into poker. And we obviously built Dusk Till Dawn in the UK to be the biggest poker club. At the time, it was the biggest poker club in Europe. It's not now. And we had our own online business. So we had a skin of Wager Logic. Then we had a skin of iPoker. Then we had a skin of Boss Media. So we kind of, since 2007, I'm kind of working in the online world. And we began to work with the relationship between live and online, discovering that the stronger live is, the better for online, and the stronger online is, the better for live. They don't actually compete with each other; they complement each other. So we had our own skin, but we used to do a lot of work with PokerStars. They were like our major partner. It was a hobby, to be honest with you, not really not something to enjoy rather than something to try and make revenues at. To cut a long story short, we wanted to have an EPT at my casino. PokerStars always wanted the EPT to be in London, so we had a WPT instead. WPT at the time was owned by Party Poker, and that's how we started to get to know Party Poker a little bit. Actually, my guys started to work with Party Poker before I was involved, because I had kind of a dim view of Party Poker, because they used to do stuff like withdrawal fees and rip people off on exchange rates, and they weren't like they weren't very credible, really, in my opinion. But then, as I got to know some of the guys at Party Poker, and then PokerStars obviously got bought by Amaya, a lot of things changed, and we kind of ended up working together. And I ended up agreeing to work with the owners of Party Poker to try and create a little bit of a renaissance of the brand.
Which I would have to say, honestly, from having been in the poker community for about 10 years, I think that nobody thought that any company would have any chance ever really again against PokerStars. I think the general consensus in the poker world was, okay, PokerStars is always going to be like the big daddy and everybody else is always going to be, second tier. And I think everyone was really shocked and impressed.
Well, that's actually still the case. I think PokerStars are 5 times bigger than Party. Maybe 4 times bigger revenue-wise, but yeah, I think when we first started, they were 20 times bigger. So the gap's been closed somewhat. But
exactly.
Still, when you such a big gap between the two companies, you're still going to be second tier. I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have got involved in this project if PokerStars hadn't kind of, and I'll be honest, lost their way and not really caring about the players and not really caring about poker that much. Primary motivation to get involved in this project was that I think people who know me, they know that I'm really passionate about poker. That I like the idea of poker. Like my dad's 82 and he goes to play poker at my casino every night. Now I actually think that probably keeps him alive because he's communicating with people. He's mobile. He just falls asleep sometimes, but I've seen and I've got so many good friends in poker in America, China, all different around the world. So, I would have never made those relationships without poker. So I think poker's such a unique thing, and I would recommend anybody getting into poker as long as they can control their bankroll management, because it just opens up so many avenues to meet other people. Also, another thing about poker is that I've met young, shy 18-year-old students who started playing poker, and then you meet them again when they're 25, 26, and they're super confident people because they've been mixing with so many different people from so many different backgrounds. So I'm actually a big believer that poker is really good. Is a really good thing for people generally.
I couldn't agree more.
So I felt that we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I felt that because Party Poker was didn't have any players, everything that Party Poker goes by is upside. So it's a free roll effectively. So I felt that could create a model where you created out of every dollar revenue, you said, okay, well, PokerStars make 40 cents, Party Poker can try and make 20 cents, and that's an extra 20 cents back into the ecology for the players in simple terms. So I kind of like the idea of that model of investing back into the community without bullshitting people. A lot of companies say that, but it's an economic model for the ecology for poker ecology to work. The operators can't overrake it. They've got to put a bit back in, and I felt that model would work with online.
Which I think the poker community as a whole responded so positively to Party Poker because it seemed like it was, and I mean, I think it is, made for poker players. So there was this huge movement essentially for, more gimmicky things and how can we find ways to, make poker more fun and maybe even trite in some ways, but that actually Party Poker seemed to be making a big investment in attracting and maintaining and keeping poker players that like poker already and that do want to play poker. Was that a goal that you guys had?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, we just had a 5-year plan, do this, and first we didn't really think so strategically as that. It was a 5-year plan. Year 1 was to establish a good marketing vehicle, so with the Party Poker Live events. Year 2 was to establish some good tournaments on the site, and year 3 is about fixing the ecology of the site, and we're in year 3 now. In terms of the arguments about serious poker versus social poker, I'm kind of a big fan of both. I mean, I'm a serious poker player. I play, I play in the highest stakes poker games around the globe, so I'm very serious. But at the same time, I'm playing on on an app at the moment with my friends where we can throw like turds and tomatoes at each other. So I like the social side as well. I mean, I'm playing on this app called Fun Ocean, and you can click on the microphone and say "you idiot," and you can also throw stuff at each other, do emojis. So I actually think both is the right answer. I think like catering for serious poker players, but at the same time making it fun, because it doesn't have to be boring. Just because you like poker and you take it seriously and you look at your EV and you're effectively being more conscientious about your game, doesn't mean you're not going to enjoy throwing a lump of turd at somebody who gives you a bad beat. Yeah. So I actually think like both, and I think that's really important to have even for the diehards, have a bit of fun when you're playing,
For sure. They're not mutually exclusive. You're right. Yeah.
The party poker, I think the party poker is not just about the serious poker player. Definitely not. I think party poker is about everybody, and finding a balance between all things. It's a little bit like understanding what a professional player does for your site. My poker stars would maybe err on the side of not appreciating the professional winning player so much. I think that's fair to say. Whereas I appreciate the professional player who starts games, keeps games going, provides liquidity, is there, that's propping the site. We pay him his cash back and he wins. But everyone wins there because the recreational player gets liquidity. I don't appreciate the professional player who waits like a vulture for these right time to strike and just takes the money and runs. And they're the players that I would happily close down all their accounts, to be honest with you. They think they're valuable to the site, but they're actually parasites. So that you've got like a good pro and a bad pro, which I don't think a lot of people get. And I think it's important to understand that a professional player can win, can get paid his cash back, and if he starts enough games and keeps enough games going for the site can win, and the recreational player can win as well. And I think that's what people don't get,
That's a distinction that is definitely not made very frequently.
I don't know. Well, that's because but the sites or the businesses are run by people who don't understand poker players. I mean, I have a group called Rob Yong High Stakes Group with about 200 high stakes players in, and they give the best advice of anybody. And 95% of them give unselfish advice. Not just for themselves. I mean, they report box to me. They give me a hard time about some things that we get wrong. But generally, these 200 players, they're helping shape the way party poker goes. And they're what I would call good pros. They get it. Like if you just take like example of a cash game. A good pro is a pro that, let's say, plays against a businessman. A businessman makes a great fold. The pro shows that he had the nuts, and the businessman feels good. And the pro's going to get in the game long term. A bad pro is a pro who doesn't want to show his whole cards to anybody and doesn't give anything to the game. And I think getting the bad pros away from your business is smart business, but welcoming the good pros is also smart business.
And it seems actually that at least a lot of the pros that I'm around on a regular basis are starting to realize and really are becoming advocates for the understanding that the poker economy is dependent upon making sure that people are enjoying and that they're creating a space and an environment. Even I just interviewed Phil Galfond like 2 months ago, and he's talking about, his site that he's trying to get going, and that basically they're realizing that creating a space for recreational players is also part of ultimately keeping the economy going. That it may seem macro, but that it's really obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be enjoyable for everybody. And you shouldn't be doing things that are encouraging the parasite pros. You should be doing things, but I know party poker has been seen as, they're doing everything for the pros. But if you actually look at the things that we've done, we're actually to encourage the pros that will support the site. The things that we're doing now are to get rid of the parasites. So and obviously we're going to get some heat from those because there is quite a lot of parasites in poker. I mean, there's a lot of good pros that become parasites, to be fair, because the games have become tougher. So effectively, that's what people have had to start to do more things to get an edge. But yeah, I would say like party poker's thinking about all social, whether it's the social aspect, the serious aspect, the pros, the recreationals. I think you need all areas to have a healthy ecology, and it's tough to compete nowadays with Candy Crush and all the Fortnite and all the things there is for people to do on their computers. I mean, online poker's competing for that space, yeah.
For sure. So let's talk about, I want to get into the first sort of major change, which happened last month or the month before with the Party Poker Millions in Montreal. You guys did make a shift from this Uber sort of re-entry situation, which was based on, I think, what players really said that they wanted, which I think some people would be surprised about. But that ultimately it creates a different environment when you can't re-enter a million times. So let's talk a little bit about making that choice and where that decision ultimately came from, and if you guys are happy with the result of that tournament.
Well, me personally, I'm against re-entries and against late registration. I think that everyone should be there at the start, and we should all play. It's not like when you have a football match, you can turn up halfway through it. So, or if you lose, you can just play again. So I kind of like the idea that poker's more of a sport. There's tournaments. Obviously, some tournaments is nice to blow off in and have lots of re-entries and rebuys and have some fun, some cheaper buy-ins. But I think your main event should be as close to a freeze-out as possible. And the argument that literally, we changed from... we compromised. We said if you play day 1A and you bust day 1A, you can play day 1B, but effectively both days are a freeze-out. So it's about as close to a freeze-out as you can get. Because I do understand that people travelling like to Montreal, to Rio, to all over the world, if they get their aces bust on day 1A, then it's not very nice. So we kind of compromised a touch, but effectively we created this freeze-out format where if you play day 1A, which you get the option to buy into day 1B if you bust, but only 40% of people bust day 1A, so it's a very small amount of people that actually you're effectively creating something that stops people moaning. And I would say that that's a good format for a tournament, and the Canadian tournament was that format. I think they just hit the guarantee. Obviously, when you haven't got all the extra re-entries, just to give you an idea, a Millions main event, the average person spent 2 times the buy-in. So when we got 1,000 players, it was only 500 uniques. So if you're getting like 470 uniques now and 50 players, it's the same, but you're just getting less re-entries in the prize pool. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with the format. I like it. We're under pressure from players to change the format back to the re-entry format. But again, we're under pressure from 2 types of people. First of all, rich businessmen who can afford anything, and second of all, pros that know the more re-entries they have, the more edge they have. But I think the middle ground, the sensible people, are saying that we've got the balance right. I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a novel idea, and I just was talking to Thomas Lamache, who was the tournament director for Poker Stars for ages. Yeah, me too. And I asked him, like, if you could change anything moving forward, or what do you see for the poker world moving forward? And he said, freeze-outs, like enough with the re-entries. It's changing the whole poker space, and that ultimately, if we wanted to build a true sport, like you're saying, that freeze-outs are the way to go. So obviously,
I don't think the market will accept that yet. I mean, it's like 2 or 3 years ago to ban HUDs. I don't think the market was ready to accept that. I think the market chooses when it's ready to accept. I think now the market is sick of HUDs and technology and ready to take the hit. And we've seen no decrease in traffic since we got rid of the HUDs, which is amazing. Everyone said that we'd be crucified. So I think the market will say it's time to get rid of re-entries or limit re-entries. I don't think the market's ready for that yet. But when we do events in Russia, they want to re-enter 100 times if they can. The culture-wise, people want the option. They want to feel like if they're unlucky, they can have another bite at the cherry. So I don't think the market's ready to get rid of re-entry yet. But I think we've taken like ahead of time by removing it from our main events or by day 1A to day 1B. So I don't think it's doing us any favours, because I think overall people still want re-entry, but we're just trying to chip away and do what we know is right.
Well, let's talk about that then. So obviously the big question, the big topic of discussion at this point is the removal of the HUDs. So let's talk about, your guys' perspective and, the motivations, the impetus for this decision.
Well, I think it's like, I'm quite surprised that people have kicked off so much, to be honest with you, because this has been in the pipeline for 2 years. I mean, we said 2 years ago HUDs are going to go on party when we're comfortable with our game integrity, our security, when we've got our boxes ticked. And then 6 months ago we said it's going to be in 6 months' time. So, it's not really been a surprise. But I think the issue is no one believed we'd dare do it, because I think people thought, say someone can play 12 tables on a HUD and 6 tables normally, they didn't think we'd dare lose 6 tables. I think people thought that we wouldn't dare lose. I think it was that we can see when someone's using a HUD, so we can break it down. So 82% of what we will call grinders who play 3 tables or more are using HUDs. So I think people thought there's no way they dare take those tools away from 82% of their players who play multi-tables. So I think that's why there's a surprise.
Yeah, but you haven't seen any changes in traffic?
No, nothing.
It's interesting. And so the decision ultimately, though, what the motivation was...
Cash games are up. Cash game numbers are up. Let me have a look last week. Cash games, okay, so... cash games before the change, 7,200. Cash games after the change, 8,100 players on average. So for the week, 10% up since we made the change, which I didn't expect. I thought we'd get 20% downlift, but no, it's not.
And so, what was your guys' thought process in wanting this change and instituting this change? It's ultimately, you feel like, to get rid of the parasitic poker players?
No, I think no, because everyone's not a parasite who uses a HUD. I think that's misconception. The parasites are people that use the solvers and cheat and things like that, share and download hand histories and share them with each other. 82% of our high volume customers were using HUDs 2 weeks ago. So, it's interesting how our volume's not gone down. But in answer to your question, the reason for doing it is to create a base. This is just a start. So I was looking around my casino and I had 10 cash games at my casino. I looked on Party Poker and it had 8. And I thought, something's wrong here. There was 8 cash games at 1-2 on Party Poker and 10 cash games in my casino at 1-2. My casino's in Nottingham in the middle of nowhere. And Party Poker is a global online brand. So I felt that we had to ask ourselves the question, what's wrong with the cash games? So let's address the basics first. So let's write down a list of 20 things that's wrong with online cash games. Now, HUDs is one of the things that's wrong with them. Technology, using technology to play is definitely a downside. But there's many other things that are wrong with the cash games. The bum hunting, the hit and run, the fact that you're allowed to hop tables. You wouldn't be allowed to do that in a live environment. So there's lots of things. I think there's about 50 odd changes that we want to make, and this is just part of the basis to create a foundation where you can actually grow your cash games. I didn't feel the cash games were so acidic. Literally, say I would sit at a table, and these guys would consider me a fish. So I would sit at a table 25-50. 5 players instantly join with a seating script because they're looking for my name, and as soon as I stop playing, they'll leave. That's been happening to a lot. That's been happening throughout online poker for the last couple of years, and no one's done anything about it. So you can't use seating scripts on Party Poker; they don't work. You can use auto seat, which but you can't use external seating scripts, and just addressing all these issues is before you even think about growing them. How can you market cash games and say come and play these games when they're just so disgusting? So make them, so in simple terms, make them not disgusting first, which is part of what these changes are, and then we'll start to market them.
So the obvious question that everyone's going to ask is, how do you keep things secure if people can't look at hand histories and such?
Well, I mean, the first point is when players report bots and cheats and collusion, it's not always because they've been looking at hand histories. Often it's the feel of the game, the suspect, somebody's told them something. So that's just dispel that fact that hand histories are this golden way of catching people. And second of all, when we look at our stats, for example, people report 11 bots. We're in a situation where 10 out of 11 of those were already under investigation. So the actual player power and players reporting people, I'm sorry to say, isn't a massive benefit to party poker anymore. So I know players don't want to hear that. Players want to hear that we look at the hand histories and we analyse the stats and we find the bots. But the reality is that the cases that got reported we're already aware of, and the harsh reality is that many times players are wrong. I mean, I'm playing you and I'm losing to you. I report you as a bot. I mean, that's we waste so much time with false accusations. I mean, really, I don't see how players can actually think that they can be in a better situation to catch cheats and collusion when they see like a very small part of the game. They just see their own hand histories. Our risk integrity department sees every hand, has the full history on the player, has the full KYC on the player. So if you're like saying to me, forget downloading hand histories, if you were saying to me, do you think players are going to be a massive benefit to catching bots and cheats in the future? I would say yes. They'll still report them, but because players haven't got the hand histories, I don't think it's a big difference. It's like, for example, if my Swedish friend tells me that so and so is using an AI bot in play to cheat, I've not used the hand histories to get that information. So that's my first few points, is that sadly the value that players add is not now to our fight is not as much as players think it is, and I'd just rather be honest. However, saying that, we have got 3 risk departments. We've got one internal in Party Poker, we've got one external to Party Poker, and I have my own risk people as well. So we've got 3-pronged attack on this to make sure that we are on top of these matters. So like, I'm not like feeling that the hand history thing's a valid argument. I think most of the time players are looking to get hand histories to try and share them with each other and gain an edge over their opponents, not necessarily to help the site catching bots.
Well, and I think most poker players are numbers people too. So it's pretty easy if you're able to say, okay, out of 30 cases we had last year where we thought they were bots or where we thought there was collusion or whatever, one of them was, brought to us by something that had been discovered by a player. I think it's pretty easy to showcase your case if you can just say like, okay, it's just not, the numbers don't add up. This isn't actually
we're
something
still working
that
with players. So every single person in Party Poker's risk department is a poker player. Mm-hmm. Every single person in our external risk department is a poker player. And every single person who's working for me in my private area is a poker player. So, yeah, of course, poker players are the best guys to catch people.
Yeah.
But give them all the information, And if some elite poker players are really concerned about bots on Party Poker and they're willing to not play on Party Poker, they can join my private agency and come and I'll pay them to interrogate data all day. But I don't necessarily buy the argument about the site security is compromised because we're not giving hand histories. I think players' security is compromised when we're giving hand histories because of all the skullduggerous things that go on.
Which, in fact, so this is actually something I was just going to address because I talked about this on another podcast last week, and someone here was asking, how does banning HUDs actually help low stakes recreational players? And I would just say, because I said the same thing, when I go and I go to spew $150 online, I'm not thinking, oh, does someone have a HUD? But the reason that this happens is that, okay, if that person who does have a HUD sees that I never 3-bet, or my 3-betting, percentage is 2%, then I'm going to lose almost all the time. And if I lose all the time, then ultimately this changes the economy for...
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, this is a bit of a myth. A HUD doesn't help people doesn't help you play against opponents who you haven't got many hands on, who don't play many hands. A HUD helps you play against other regular players. So effectively, one of the issues with HUDs is that, just like what you said there, other people perceive that HUDs are more powerful than they are, but the reality is that they're very powerful against regulars who play a lot of hands because you have a lot of data on them, but they're not actually that powerful against the recreational players.
So I think that's what this guy's asking. So Christopher's saying, how does banning HUDs help create a more sustainable environment for low stakes non-regular players?
Banning HUDs doesn't make much difference to irregular players that will play once a week. Regular non-professional players who play 3 or 4 times a week, so a recreational regular player, it makes a big difference to. So if someone's going to log on every month or etc., a HUD's not going to have an impact against them. But a casual recreational regular player is going to get destroyed by a professional player using a HUD. So it's like there's a confusion. There's also just like we had bad pros and good pros, we have regular recreational players and non-regular. Yeah. Non-regular regs, no difference. The HUD doesn't make any difference, but regular regs make a difference.
Okay.
So you've got to just look at almost full categories of customers.
Okay, cool.
But just going back to your security, the game security and integrity. I think we're one of the only industries where we don't regulate ourselves and share information. Let's, for example, say if someone cheats in my casino or cheats in Las Vegas casino, they go onto a blacklist and other people are warned about it. But in our industry as poker, we don't come together. Like, for example, there'll be someone cheating in a casino in France, yet they get barred, but they're allowed to go into a casino in Italy. There'll be someone cheating on PokerStars, yet they're playing on Party Poker. And I think addressing that issue is the way to really get rid of cheating, collusion, and the problems in poker. So one of the things that I've done is, and we're going to launch it in the next week, we've set up a website called Fair Play. Nothing to do with Party Poker, just myself and one of my central company. We set up a website called Fair Play, and we're going to invite the live tours, the live casinos, and the online operators to join this website and start to work together and share information on people they catch cheating. So obviously I'll invite Party Poker. Hopefully they will join. And so the idea is that if you cheat on Party Poker, you go onto this blacklist in the Fair Play database. And then the other sides can see that you're a cheat, and either they can ban you if you're an existing customer of theirs, or they can watch out for you joining. Because what will happen is someone will cheat on 888, get caught, then go to party, then get you know what I mean. So creating this central blacklist of poker players that cheat, whether it's live or online, whether it's bots or collusion, is something that I want to work on. And obviously, it would be fantastic if PokerStars agreed to join this as well, because they'll by far catch the most people. So I think that for me is a permanent, tangible, strategic, effective way of running cheats and bots out of poker. Relying on a few players sitting in their bedroom looking at hand histories is not. So I think thanks to all the players for helping out, but ultimately the industry and the operators, we need to take this cheating and the use of bots and a lot more seriously, and we all need to come together. And I'm going to try and bring everybody to agree to do this. I'm partners with WSOP, I'm partners with WPT, partners with Party Poker, partners with 50 casinos around the world. So I think I can bring quite a lot of people to join this Fair Play website and submit the names of the people that they're banning. And maybe we can really put the pressure on that way, So that's
coming from a blackjack background. I think that's more like what they do when they find advantage blackjack players and such. Right? There's a list. Well,
there's
I think
a list,
in the blacklist, you don't want to be on that.
But why don't we have a list of cheaters in poker?
Yeah, no, you're 1,000% right, and I think that makes sense. Andy is asking a question, which I think is an interesting alternative. He said, "Would Party Poker ever?" Hold on, like 8,000 questions came in. Would Party Poker ever consider providing a HUD of their own so that everyone could be on the same playing field?
I wouldn't say a HUD of sorts, but My Game, which is our training tool, will already provides you with some data for your own play, and I've asked them to put the data on the table, similar to a HUD, for My Game. So the answer to that is probably yes. But for your own play, to improve your own play, not to look for leaks in your opponent's play. So I've asked My Game to put on the table next to your alias, if you want to, a few stats to help improve your game. So I'm all for people improving the game, but I don't buy this bullshit argument about we need our hand histories for recreational players. I mean, pros are saying to me, recreational players love hand histories. I mean, come on, give me a break. People got jobs and stuff and families and kids. They're not sitting at home interrogating hand histories. So I don't buy that side of it. But we are going to improve and develop My Game, and I've agreed with John Conroy, who manages the development team for My Game, 4-week demo to have results, statistics in there for your own play. So as good as a HUD, but you don't need to download.
Okay, Jason wants to know, how will you combat black hat HUDs that don't rely on hand histories and are only available to a small group of players, whereas anyone could use a legit HUD?
Well, first of all, I'll put rewards out for anyone that finds screen capture HUD that works on Party. So, again, I'd say like the guys that I'm working with for my risk part of things, they're working more in the industry to find out what's going on. For example, I've got people in groups, in bot groups. I've got people in cheating inclusion groups that are on the internet, keeping an eye on and letting me know what's going on. So, first of all, I'll find out about that, no doubt. I found out about the Party hand history converter the day it came out. So, in terms of finding out about it, then you've got to bar the person who's created it, sue the person, etc., and take action there. Or alternatively, you invite the guy in and pay him to
figure it out.
There's two ways of doing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's two ways of doing it. I mean, you can try and punish people who try and get around the rules, or you can invite them in and reward them and pay them, and they help your security team improve. So I think finding about some rogue software we'll find out about. No one's really going to develop commercial software to get around this, because they wouldn't risk taking the legal action. So the only way this type of software, screen capture software, could get developed is privately and underground. And again, my approach will be to find out about it, find out who's done it, and then decide what action to take from there. And it could be we invite this person in, pay him, and he helps us make sure it can't be used on Party Poker.
Okay, well, I want to make sure that.
But I'm not that worried. I'm not that worried about it, because our fingers are in all pies. I mean, I can literally just log into. There's a group with 132 people that use bots. I could log into that group now and show you. I mean, obviously they don't know that that I've got people in these groups, but I know what's going on.
Okay, so I know that you are a busy man with many things going on, so I'm going to cut this off in 4 minutes, but I just want to ask these two other questions that people got in really quick. The one is, you mentioned that players who used to be able to play 12 tables are now maybe only going to be able to play 6 or 8.
Yeah.
You said that things are going good, but are you worried about ultimately losing volume, or about players not being able to maintain their volume?
But I'm on this system that I've always been on in my life, which is just keep doing the right thing and it always comes good in the end. And don't worry too much about the bumps along the road. And I think we're doing the right things. Like, for example, we're going to introduce table starter cashback in July. So for the good pros that I talked to you about, we're going to give them extra cashback for starting tables and playing short-handed. So, when we're talking about like worrying about losing players, we're going to do things to keep players as well, So these types of, but we're not just saying if you're a high volume player, you're not welcome on Party Poker. We're actually going to come up with a promotion for high volume players. I think if you're playing heads up or 3-handed on a 6-handed table, we'll pay you 50% or double your cashback for helping support the site. So kind of we'll lose some and we'll gain some, So the question's a good question. Are we worried? Well, we're always worried about losing business, but at the same time, lose some, win some, and do the right thing, and I'm pretty sure it comes right in the end.
So I feel like you already answered this question, but I'm just going to throw it out there just in case you have anything else to add. With removing hand histories, what extra security steps are being taken to prevent collusion, bots, etc.? This is where you said there's like 3 different parts of the
team.
We've
got 3 different risk departments, and we're going to create the overall collaboration with the other poker companies to together. We're much more powerful together. So I mean that's actually sustainable, real action rather than just talk.
Yeah,
and that will be launched this week.
Well, great. And we would obviously PokerNews, and I think everybody who's watching and listening would love to support. I think that movement is something everybody can get behind. So definitely let us know if there's press releases or whatever.
The website's done. It's all ready to launch. I did a video for it. We just need to, I just need to check it again. And we're going to release it. I'll release it on my Twitter, and I'll announce every time someone joins. And we're going to that's the best way. 888, PokerStars, Party Poker, WPT, WSOP, EPT, everywhere where a poker player can cheat or collude, we agree to put this blacklist together, and that's how you get everybody out. Because ultimately, I just made this quick point, is that the cheaters included aren't necessarily poker players. They can just be normal people. Our biggest winner at cheating has never played a hand of poker in his life. He's just to cheat. He'll cheat in any sector. So if we make it really difficult to cheat in our sector, these guys are going to think twice. They're going to think, there's easier money to be made somewhere else. And I think by us coming together, or by a good proportion of us coming together and working together to get rid of these bad practices in poker is the long-term solution. And I say the website's done; it's all ready to go. I've started inviting people, and I'll put a link to the website on my Twitter next week. And we're up and we go up and running, and hopefully people will have some faith. And it's something that I'm going to set up, but then I want to hand over to somebody else. Because it should be completely independent, and it's not independent while I've got a partnership with Party Poker. So.
All right. Well, I've already had you for 45 minutes, so I want to give you time. I know you're a busy man with lots going on, but is there anything else you want to say? Lots of people have commented and are, appreciating what you're doing and appreciating, trying to just change things and see how things, react, and trying to listen to players and what players want. Anything else on the horizon we should be looking for? Or anything else you want to leave with people before I let you go?
Just that we keep on pressing on, and it's about the long run, not the short run, and we'll be accountable and open. I'll be accountable and open. I'll probably do most of the talking for Party Poker, because Tom, the MD, is busy with the software, Nick's busy with the live events, everyone's really busy. So I think it's good that we have one point of contact that the media can and the players can bash over the head, and I'm happy to be that. I've done that job for a long time. So I think we're just going to be really open and not care what everybody else does. Just because some companies do it that way or some companies do it that way, we don't have to even look at anybody else. We can just be really open with the poker community and do the right thing. And Party Poker can make a profit, not as big a profit as other companies, but it can make a profit, and the players can have a sustainable ecology, and that's the business plan.
Well, I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you taking the time. I think it's really exciting, a lot of things that you guys have done and changes and experimenting with things. And so, as a member of the poker community, I obviously wish you guys luck, and I appreciate everything you're trying to do.
We keep on praying and trying.
That's it. That's all we can do.
But listen, anytime you want to have a chat or anything, feel free to get in touch.
I got you on Skype now, so watch out. I'll be drunk dialing you like all the time. Hey, it's your girl. What are you doing? We'll be in touch for sure.
Okay, fantastic.
Thanks so much, Rob.
Thanks for chatting. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys, and thank you all for joining us. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rob, Donna, all my homies in the chat. It was great, and I appreciate it. And if you're out there and you're watching right now, I'm about to get on with Fedor Holtz in 12 minutes. We're going to have Fedor Holtz live on Facebook, so you guys can jump into that broadcast and ask him questions if you want. Where has the man, the myth, the legend that's Fedor been? Just feel free to come back in 10 minutes. All right, bye.